We're going to talk today about, as we mentioned before, a smarter Milwaukee. And what does a smarter Milwaukee look like? I'm going to take a brief stab at that. As a smarter Milwaukee starts with enlightened leadership, both in the public and private sectors, and perhaps most importantly in the public and private partnerships, like we're seeing with the water hub development here in Milwaukee. A smarter Milwaukee starts with a smarter workforce. Whether we're talking about skilled tradesmen, such as plumbers, welders, and electricians, or professionals in biotechnology, healthcare, and telecommunications. And finally, a smarter Milwaukee begins in our education system. And some of the best resources in the region are with us here today. So as we move forward towards a smarter Milwaukee, I'm going to talk about something. My first leadership lesson in life was when I was promoted to be a leader at a young age with no background or training in leadership whatsoever. I asked the one person I admired the most, what am I going to do? That was my father. And I'll never forget what he said that day, some 30 years ago or whatever. That leadership is simple, but it isn't easy. Surround yourself with the brightest people you can find and do everything you can to help them fly. I think my dad was way ahead of his time. I think we know this concept today as servant leadership, whereby as a leader, you serve the people who report to you rather than the other way around. I wonder if each of you will go down the line, could provide a thought or two about the concept of servant leadership and as it applies in today's workforce.
Well, excuse me, Steve, I certainly agree with that concept. I think a big role of the leader is to develop the leaders within the organization. Even an organization like ours, which isn't overly large, the days of the command and control leadership, certainly in our organization, are over. And so I remember I was at a seminar years ago and somebody talked about Vince Lombardi versus Bill Walsh, who were both great leaders, but Vince Lombardi, none of his assistants went on to great leadership roles, whereas football coach, you may be familiar with Bill Walsh, a lot of his, Mike Holmgren and Mike McCarthy and John Gruden and Andy Reid, and so many of he mentored many leaders, and I admire that role and certainly view that as part of my role as a leader, is to help develop the people, because there's so much more depth in numbers than just trying to do it all yourself.
As far as servant leadership goes, I think servant leadership is an enlightening experience for a person. I think it's necessary for every leader to have gone through a process of servant leadership. My understanding of servant leadership is someone who basically gets their hands dirty, someone that's working in the trenches with their followers or the people who work for them and around them. I think that servant leadership, that activity, helps that person to better understand the people around them and those that they serve. Again, I think that makes them a better leader. I feel that the leaders that we think of who are not the greatest leaders have not gone through that process of servant leadership. Therefore, they don't have that deeper understanding of what do my followers need, what does my staff need, what do my customers or clients need. And that understanding is key to being a positive leader.
I think everybody in this room understands the importance of having good people that work for you. And again, I would just relate it to my experiences. I have currently 12 employees scattered across the United States, and I see them maybe once a quarter individually. And because of that, I have to develop their skills, often through email, long phone conversations, and that's establishing that relationship, but knowing that their strength is why I succeed. They're doing the calls, they're doing the physical work that I'm not doing. I'm trying to lead them remotely and trying to develop them as future leaders, but it's a difficult task. So I completely understand the importance of building your staff, mentoring them, to use the skills that I've gotten from all the people that mentored me over the years, which is a lot of people. But I understand that you have to, if you want to succeed, you got to have really quality people that understand the mission. You know, part of being a leader is to communicate your goals and targets, praise whenever possible, build those relationships. But I understand that they are doing the physical work. They are on the streets, making the calls, doing whatever it takes to succeed. I'm just kind of walking them through the process. So for me, it's just building those relationships with them, understanding that they're doing the physical work, and I'm just kind of leading them along the way.
Christine?
Thank you, Steve. I heard you say, Steve, that we need to hire the brightest. I would add one component to that, and that component would be the best and the brightest. The best in terms of the cultural fit. Do their values align with your vision of your organization, where you're going, and how you do business? Because if there isn't a values fit, then there's an inherent conflict already. And more than ever, we need to be hiring for values. I can share with you a gentleman named Bill Shaw, who's my leader at Nabisco. He was the gentleman who hired me. And I will tell you that his leadership style, because of who he was, he changed who I was, and I became the best of who I could be. And that wasn't just a drop in the water with a little bit of a ripple. I'm going to tell you, he changed who I was at a core level, a fundamental level, for the rest of my life. And I have passed that on to other people. I think that's our role. When we look at who we hire, are we hiring for the moment? And if we are, then we need to contract them. If we're hiring them as keepers because they're the future of our organization, because they can shape and they can mold and they can help develop us to be better in who we are as leaders, who we are as corporate citizens, who we are as a thriving culture, then we hire them.